All right, let's look at some trades ahead of round 9. So the main theme is still making upgrades, but also we want to focus a little bit on getting our buy structure right. There are 5 buy rounds this year, which is a first, so there won't be a huge impact, but it is still important. I would recommend going through your team and just counting out how many players you have on what buy in each line, and particularly I'd look at counting the premiums. Once you've done that, then we can look at who to bring in. So let's do that now, remembering that we still want to be fixing up our weakest lines. For the back line, my favourite target is Harry Sheezel, who I highly recommended last week, but I just didn't go there. He's in that halfback role and scored 134 last round. Now, personally, I don't think he should be in that role. One contested possession from your best player who is prioritising disposals over actual impact. But the thing is, I don't think North care. They are happy for him to rack up and get cheap touches. And hey, they almost won, so maybe it's not a bad idea. I have no idea how long he will last with this role, but as I said last week, he's averaged over 125 with it. And I'm going to jump on this train, I think. And when talking about the buys, he's on round 12, which is already populated, but I think I can make it work. Wanganeen Malera has the round 13 buy, which is the good buy, because there's only 2 teams on it, so getting guys like him may let you balance your team well over the other buy rounds. And regardless of his buy, he's a good pick. Members who have signed up to the channel can see my best 22, but let me tell you, he is well entrenched. And then probably the only other guy I'd be looking at back there is Josh Dacos, who I also missed last week when I went to Ash instead. He's still relatively cheap, at 935,000, so priced just over 90, and he's definitely capable of going at that 100 mark. I do think his ceiling is a worry though. Yes, he scored 119 the other week, but he was on heaps at halftime to get there. He always has one really good half, and one that's not great, which makes him consistent, I guess. And his buy is round 14, by the way. Then for the mids, there's a few, but I will also say Sheezel and Josh Dacos both have midfield status, so I'm also considering just playing them in my midfield. But for the other guys to consider, Tom Green is one. I'm just waiting for when he gets on a roll and finds form because he's priced just over 100 and is very capable of going around the 110 mark. Geelong this week should be a good matchup, and with the round 16 bye, I don't mind it. Similarly priced is Sam Walsh, who had a couple of big games but has struggled for the rest of the year. Round 12 bye, so even though he's probably underpriced, I'd avoid it. We've also got Jack Sinclair, who I guess I should have talked about with the defenders. He's really underpriced at about 95, but he still has a high break-even. I think I'd wait for it to bottom out, and maybe we just target him in round 14 coming off his bye. The same could be said for Jack Steele, who finds himself incredibly cheap. He did just score 113, but he'd be a very risky play. He's just not getting many touches this year, and maybe we'll pick him up when he comes good. Caleb Sarong, I don't want to go anywhere near. He's been awful this year in terms of fantasy. Will Ashcroft has been all right, but I wouldn't go there. Max Holmes is now in the 800s, but even then, I don't know if I'd do that. He's got the Giants then, Port, but we may be able to pick him up cheap later on. The Gold Coast boys Rowell, Miller, Anderson and Flanders are all really cheap, but it's because they haven't been performing. We might be able to get them at a bargain price later on, but for now, it's a no. And the same can be said for Heaney, who just hasn't delivered. So yeah, Tom Green, Josh Dacos and Sheezel are probably the guys I'd look at this week with not many good options. Or you can pay up for like a Dunkley, which might be safer, but it's hard to afford. And then we have the rucks. If you have Tom de Koning and you're trying to trade him, there is one extremely obvious and good pick. Tristan Xerri, averaging 120 in his last 3, priced at 100, and we all know what he can do. A great pick. There is just one small problem. Most of us already have him, and there are no other clear options. Gawn is way too expensive to consider now. I think English is too expensive. So is Cameron. The only decent and semi-cheap guy is Rowan Marshall. But there's a reason he's cheap. He hasn't been playing well. Now he does have 2 decent matchups in a row, But then he has Wits and Gawn, so there's just no reprieve. As much as I hate it, I might be forced to just hold and upgrade elsewhere. But if you don't have Zeri, that is the easiest trade of your life. And then, for the forwards, I've said this every round so far, but get Isaac Rankin. That's the easy one, and he's still underpriced. Petraka is a decent option, but he's just come of his good run. I'd still recommend him though. But there are two who I've gotten a lot of comments about, Chad Warner and Matheus Philippou. I'll be completely honest, I don't rate Warner as a fantasy option. Yes, he's cheap. That's because he doesn't score well. He's the definition of an impact player. He has a good role, pure midfield. But he is so inconsistent and not someone I'd want to own. I also think he is well out of the top 6 forwards. Don't get me wrong. There is every chance he could put up a big score in any given round, and he has a good run. But there is also a chance he'll have a 50. You just never know what you are going to get. Now for Philippou, who I like a little more. And honestly, I think there is a very realistic world where Philippou averages more than Warner. But it's his first week back. I would definitely recommend to wait a week and see what he's doing first, but if you are desperate this week, I wouldn't stop you. He can go 90 to 100 probably, and Ross Lyons said he'll be playing pure midfield. So yeah, he's a great pick, but I'd still rather wait a week. And I've forgotten to talk about rookies, so I'll do that now. Hugh Boxall. He should play, and surely he won't be the sub. I would almost say he's the #1 trade target. We've been crying out for rookies, and we are struggling to make cash, so he's exactly what we wanted. So yeah, you should definitely get him in. Will Lorenz for Port is who I got last week. He scored 49. That's all right, but he could get dropped very easily, so I'd try to avoid him. A popular one is Fonte for the Giants, who scored a 70 as a back. He's more expensive, priced at $350,000, but I don't mind him as an option. I'd still prefer Boxall, but if you've already got him, one to consider. And then, of course, we are hoping for some debutants to make things easy for us. There's an Essendon defender that might debut, Lewis Hayes, I believe. He's been doing really well in the VFL, averaging over 100 and taking a heap of marks, so he could be the one for Boxall owners, but we'll need to see teams. And then going over who you'd be trading out quickly, it's the same as before. Rookies who've made their cash and anyone else who's failing. Sam Davidson should definitely go, and you can get a good upgrade. Pryor can go, Hall can go, Layla, Murphy-Reed, Lindsay, Marias, all these types of guys can go. I'd say hold Levi Ashcroft with that big score built into his break-even. I'd also try to hold on to Zach Reed and Luke Traynor. They will make more cash. But if you need to trade them to make an upgrade, that's fine. In that case, I'd rather trade Traynor and hold Reed. And for some failing mid-prices and premiums, guys like Riley Sanders should again go. Obviously, Tom de Koning, who we talked about, should go if you can make it work. I'm also looking at Caleb Daniel and Jaden Short as guys I could upgrade. Both have been disappointing in recent weeks, and their prices are going backward, especially Short because I've had Traynor on the bench, outscoring him every week, and that's not good enough. Of course, you can hold them both. They are doing okay. But I need to somehow get my rank to somewhere respectable, and that could be how I do it. So on that note, let's see what trades I'm doing. Remembering that I banked $400,000 last week. So first up, Caleb Daniel goes, via some DPP to get him up to Harry Sheasel. That could be a 40 to 50 point upgrade, so I'm very happy about that. That still leaves me with almost $200,000 to make an upgrade. I'm not entirely certain what I'll do with this trade, but there's a good chance Jaden Short goes. That gives me $1.06 million to spend in any line. I could get Wanganeen Malera or Tom Green, but I might just settle for Josh Dacos and still bank some cash. I have to make that decision quickly too, because Dacos plays tonight. Looking at some captain options then, which let me down last week. Tonight we have Nick Dacos, who I don't think Fremantle will tag. You could maybe go Brayshaw too. Then on Saturday, Gawn could be one in an okay matchup against Lloyd Meek. And in the showdown, I'd expect maybe a Dawson or Rosie to stand up as the captains and have a good game. And then on Sunday, Tom Green against the Giants should be good, and maybe Lockie Whitfield too. And in the final game of the round, there's a few good options. Zeri and Sheasel should score well, but it's a bad matchup for both against Brisbane, although Sheasel might do well if it's in their back line a lot. And for Brisbane, Josh Dunkley will be good, but it's a pretty tough week for captains. I'll put out my top 5 captains for super sub members as usual, so you can check that out too. But I think I'll have Nick Dacos into either Zeri or Sheasel. For the rookies, I'm fielding Bice, Reed and Trainer for the first time. Then I'll loop with Boxall. Ashcroft is obviously on field, and then I have to figure out if I field Lindsay or Cleary. That's all. Good luck in round 9.